When Sue and I met at the 2011 international meeting, it was discussed the best ways to move forward in different areas. And there were representatives from 6 countries, from the U.S. CDC and the Hawaii Department of Health were there as well. And it was voted on that a good method for educating the public, especially in a rural community, would be to integrate it into the school systems. And I've worked in schools before. I've been a teacher here in Hawaii. So this was one of our first education projects, and it's a 2nd grade activity book based on the Hawaii science standards called The Mystery of Rat Lungworm Disease. We've printed 10,000 copies and given them all away. This book is now given out as part of the food safety, school garden food safety curriculum. And it's been super effective. Kids really like it. It also serves as a nice way to educate the general public because it's put in very simple terms, discusses the life cycle and the basic prevention methods. The next project that I took on starting in 2015 was to develop an integrated pest management plan for slugs and snails for school gardens. I was teaching up in Waimea at Kanuoka'aina before my son was infected. We were the sustainability hui. We grew a garden, we did composting, we did it all, rainwater collection, the whole 9 yards. And I knew nothing about this disease. And when I saw what it did to my son, I was completely blown away. And I said, we need to tell the school garden projects. And nobody really wanted to listen to it, so it's taken a few years to get this off the ground. But it's really been fun and really effective. So basically what I did was I identified 5 schools on Hawaii Island that varied in elevation and location because we wanted to also see what the composition, the population composition was of invasive slugs and snails at these different areas. So we had in the north, Kanuoka'aina up in Waimea, La Pahoehoe, which is a mid-elevation school. Waimea is high elevation. Kapoho, we had Kua'okala, which is about 17 feet above sea level. Mountain View, Navaiola Public Charter School, and then also Volcano Schools of Arts and Science. These were our 5 partner schools on this project. So we used integrated pest management, which I also have a background in, and it's based on using the least toxic method of control. It's a great way to use, a good method to use in school gardens because you don't want to use toxins around kids. So we based it on basically what the University of California at Davis uses for control of slugs and snails. And one of the big things that they advocate for is the use of shelters where you make refuge spots for slugs and snails to go to and make an environment that's moist and damp and cool and draw them to these shelters. So we tested 5 different types of shelter material. We set it up as a scientific experiment. Students learned how to identify the different species that they had at their schools. They learned the different techniques that you use for identification. We really, really had a strong emphasis on safety. We realized that it could, there's a danger to this, but we're exposed to it all the time. At home, students can go home and be exposed to it. So safety was a big priority. Students wore gloves. We never touched them with our bare hands. We used tongs or chopsticks. We dispose of them in a slug jug, which is basically a high saline content that will kill the slug or snail and the parasite, and just, avoid splashing. Students learn life cycles and interdependence. This is a really complex life cycle, needing the rat and slugs and snails, so something that even adults don't really understand. And students learn the whole life cycle so that they understand where the infective stage is and why we need to control that stage. We collected data. We collected rainfall data, temporal data, what type of shelter we found the species in, what species it was, how many of each species. We analyzed it, took our numbers, and basically looked at how many of the different species did we find at the different schools. We made pie charts and bar graphs, looked at which shelters were most effective, and came up with some recommendations. So overall, in one semester, we removed over 4,000 invasive slugs and snails from 5 school gardens. The majority of these were from Waimea. our largest agricultural area for the state, growing lettuce and green crops that people generally eat raw. We removed over 3,000 of these European garden snails from that area. When students, we also talked about how to prepare your food. That when you have lettuce or any type of a headed vegetable that you're going to eat raw, you need to take it all the way apart and look carefully and make sure you wash each leaf or stalk carefully. So students learned how to go back home and educate their family. They all did a hoike to other classrooms, so they educated their schoolmates. And we also use this really cool technology that's free to all K-12 students in Hawaii. It's called ArcGIS Online. It's an offshoot of the ArcGIS program. You can use story map templates to be able to tell your stories. It's a great technology and literary arts, the language arts components, mapping. It was really a great way to share, for the schools to share stories. Students are doing this ongoing. The kids at Ku'okala, the 5th grade class, this is now their project to take on rat lungworm disease. They have an aquaponics system. They're wanting to grow lettuce. So they're trying to make foolproof methods to keep slugs and snails from crawling up into their aquaponics system. And they're trying different things that have been, they've read are supposed to work. Copper strips. Here they're testing on copper strips and the slugs and snails are going right over it. They tested eggshells, they tested coffee grounds, and it's really cool. This is all student-driven learning and critical thinking, and it's really fun, and the kids are really taking off with it, and they're going to come up with things that are going to be helpful to our farmers. So this is just a great way of looking at this whole program, and I really have to say it's been fun. The kids like it. And we're working now on making this curriculum and management plan available for the entire state of Hawaii for all school garden projects. So thank you very much.
So Kay has been incredibly busy and a leader in this issue. And in 2016, she was awarded the Hawaii Invasive Species Council Community Award, Year Award, for her work on rat lungworm disease education. And I have to say, and I have to say that at the last International Rat Lungworm meeting, which was held in Brisbane, Australia, it was noted that we are the leaders in rat lungworm curriculum in the world. So it's quite an accomplishment.